Hello, everybody, and welcome to another video. And today, instead of making a Kingdoms Reborn guide, I thought it'd be fun to start building a city from the ground up. But to make it more interesting, I decided to, one, do it on Deity, the highest difficulty level, and two, I decided to not use food at all. So I will not be building any food buildings, I'll not be importing food whatsoever, and I won't be using the cannibalism card either. I have, well, what used to be 300 oranges, and I will get some oranges from just chopping down trees, but beyond that, my people are just going to starve. And I think it's kind of an interesting way to build the city. It's definitely viable. This isn't some sort of meme situation where all my people are eventually just going to die. It is, honestly, on deity level, debatably optimal to do this strategy of just not feeding your people whatsoever. So if you're kind of interested in how this is going to play out, if the city is going to completely implode or if it's actually going to, fly, hold on to your hat because this will be an interesting one. Make sure to comment and subscribe if you like these types of videos or if you want more Kingdoms Reborn guides or have any ideas of what I should do next. And let's jump into the video. So I went ahead and got a pretty great start going, at least in terms of location, just because, if I'm going to do deity and not build any food buildings, I might as well have something going for me. And so I do have cannabis and tulips right next to each other, which is nice. And then the only other thing I changed is I sold some stone right at the beginning and added iron tools instead, because iron tools, one, the price tends to be above the base of 27, so you get a little bit of a discount if you do it, right when you set your city down. And two, iron tools are super useful. It's one of those things that when you run out of iron tools in deity, you really, really feel it. And also I have a bunch of stone around here anyway, so I didn't really need it. So let's see where this takes us. Just to start, I'm gonna grab this immigration office. And then, let's see here. See if I can get anything else. And a charcoal burner. Just to start, the priorities for this are as follows. One, I wanna get farms down for cannabis to get a good full cannabis harvest in year 0, because it's going to upgrade all of my houses, and then it is also going to jumpstart my money and jumpstart research and stuff like that. Number 2, got to get down charcoal burners, because especially on deity, but really any difficulty, you're going to need a ton of coal to keep your population warm come winter. So that's the second priority. The third priority is to get down houses so you actually have places for people to live, though your first 28 population is free essentially for houses. They won't leave, I guess, is what I should say, for not having houses. And then finally, I need to get immigration offices up, because that is how I'm going to replace my population as they start dying. So I've kind of thought a little bit about how I want to lay out this city, because essentially what you want is the majority of someone's time is going to be spent doing work. So I want something like immigration offices right next to the storage yard, because people spend most of the time at work, and then if they get sick, they'll go to the storage yard for medicine. If they need tools, they'll go to the storage yard for tools. But you want charcoal near your houses, because when your people get cold, they get coal, then they walk to their house, and then they warm up at their house. So your charcoal burners should be near houses, and then your actual places of work should be near your storage yards. But also, paradoxically, you don't want your charcoal burners near your houses, because then it makes your people unhappy. So this will be kind of an interesting setup to this. As for how I want to lay out my farms, I want to set them up like this. Mostly because you want area of 64 for all of your farms. And I don't think it matters if you do square, like these rectangles. I just want it like this so I can throw down my roads. Putting down a lot of random roads early game is kind of good, because it doesn't cost anything to put up roads, and roads increase your people's walking speed by 20%. So definitely spam roads to some extent early game. It's just going to make your people a lot faster at walking around. And then, let's see here. I want to start chopping some stuff down, getting some trees cut down so I can actually start building buildings. And let's see where this takes us. So early game, and this kind of goes for like the whole game, you don't want to have too much stuff queued up, because if you have too much stuff for your people to do, they'll kind of split up and do everything very slowly instead of focusing on like one or two tasks and doing that very quickly. And so I don't like to throw down too many buildings right at the beginning. Especially, you'll find that like your people will only put down, they'll like evenly spread your resources across all your buildings, and you have a bunch of buildings with not enough wood, as opposed to like one building actually being built because all your wood's in that building. So that's something to kind of pay attention to. Typically, if you have this situation, or if you are like, if you start here and then you quick buy the province next to you, you can definitely get in year 0 a good harvest in if you focus on it. And I think that it's pretty much optimal to try and get a year 0 harvest of some kind of either tulips or cannabis in, just to upgrade your houses and give you like a whole extra year of faster science. It's going to just make your early game so much faster. So I'm going to throw down this charcoal burner, I think here. It's kind of out of the way in terms of where I'm going to put my houses, because I think I'm going to put my houses above and below the farms. And then I'm going to have immigration offices kind of around my storage yards, so they can be as close to the storage yards as possible. So I don't like buying too many cards early game, just because, you know, you run through money pretty quickly, and this can be a bit of a problem. But buying a couple of extra cards in the beginning of the game is definitely not an issue at all. It can be worth it if you're looking for something specific. So I'm going to throw down 3 houses here. Let's see what we get. Nothing super useful. Here, I'm going to grab this immigration office. And it looks like we are going to get some good harvest in, just because we have our farms up so quickly, which is very useful. And then I'm going to pick the upgrade charcoal conversion upgrade. It's super cheap, 48 gold, and it's going to save a ton of wood throughout the game, which is going to be super useful, especially like early game when you're kind of choked for wood. I'm just kind of waiting for these houses to go up before I throw down something else for my people to do. But I think I'm also going to start some chopping down here, so I have space for my immigration offices. And we have a tech tree. So, medicinal herbs will definitely be something we need to go after, but we got some time for sure. Sheep ranches can't use because food. Mushroom farms also can't use because food. Granaries actually are very good. 25 production also works for any type of farming. And then this also makes your farms 10 or 20% more effective if they're near other farms. So agricultural revolution is super important for really any run, like especially on Deity when you're just kind of clawing for any sort of efficiency, even if you're not using food at all, ironically. So this is definitely kind of a priority tech, but it's going to take a while to get there. So I'm going to start with foreign trade and kind of just push up to Middle Ages, and then decide if I want to go for libraries or agricultural revolution, or maybe ironworking just for the food harvest yield. But I think agricultural revolution and libraries are my biggest focuses. Let's see, I want to also grab a second charcoal burner to throw down here. because you'll burn through an absolute ton of coal on Deity in the winter especially. And we've run out of food officially. Well, almost. Well, I guess you could say it's the last time we're going to run out of food because we're never going to have any food for the rest of the game. So this will be interesting. When someone spawns in, they spawn in with 40 or 50 food, so 50%, and then they will go down to 0. And then after that, when they're at 0 food, they survive for a shockingly long amount of time. One time I sat down and just watched one person, and they were right when they spawned into the game, 50% food, and it took them like a year to die, which is kind of an insane amount of time for just not feeding your people at all. And then the other big advantage of not feeding your people, beyond the fact that you don't have to build food buildings, is that they won't ever leave their job to go eat, because there's not going to be any food for them to go leave their job to go eat for. And one of the big issues on Deity is your people spend so much time just walking from point A to point B to go get food, go get medicine, go get tools, go, warm up, that just not having them get food all the time makes them a lot more efficient workers. Though, eventually, obviously, they die, so you have to constantly be replacing them. So I'm going to continue just feeding this charcoal burner with my speed boosts. And I think it's time to put down some immigration centers. Let's see, where do I want to put these? So it's fine to go, all right, so I know in my previous video I said you don't ever want to go below 20% laborers. In the early game, it's not necessarily the end of the world just because you have so few goods. You just have to make sure that you are going to be able to get your harvests off, and it's fine. But eventually, yes, you definitely don't want to run out of laborers very often in your city. I want to definitely upgrade these charcoal burner guilds because, it's free efficiency, right? As for Statistics Bureau, I don't usually throw it down right away just because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my city's going to look like. And I don't want to, when you throw it down, it deletes whatever's under it, right? So it deletes those trees. And I want to be able to cut down those trees, to feed my charcoal burners and my building. When you throw down your speed boost, you want to make sure to throw it down on a building with someone there. So this actually has somebody working here. Especially on higher difficulty levels when your people spend less time actually working and more time walking. It's pretty easy to just throw down a speed boost willy-nilly, and then you throw it down on a building and no one's there, and you just kind of waste the speed boost because no one's working there. So make sure, at least early game when the speed boost matters a lot more, make sure you're throwing it down on a building with someone actually sitting there working. Because otherwise, you just kind of waste it. So I want to get some more houses up to house all my people because they need it in order to stay warm. So you don't want a bunch of houses you don't want to be missing houses, and yeah, they won't leave. The first 28 population won't leave from lack of houses, but then what are they going to do when they get cold, right? So I want to be able to throw down a couple more houses. When you expand, when you're trying to figure out where to cut down trees, you want to cut down trees near where you're going to be building because your people will cut down trees and just bring it right to the houses, right? as opposed to if I was building in the top part of my city and then harvesting in the bottom part of my city, then that's a lot less efficient in terms of building. And then likewise, if you're trying to figure out where you want to build into the trees so you can cut them down as you go. It's going to be a lot faster. I guess unless you have a massive surplus of wood, in which case, do what you want. But this is Deity, so we're not going to have a massive surplus of wood. I think we're good on charcoal burners currently. I don't foresee that being an issue, so I think the bigger thing is getting more immigration offices, especially when people start dying. You want to be able to replace them. So I want to be able to get up to 5 immigration offices. I have one more house I need to put down to be able to have enough people, or have enough houses for my people. I'm trying to figure out where to put it. I think I'm going to continue putting houses down south because I want my houses to be as near to all these immigration centers as possible, while still kind of being a little bit out of the way. And then I'm going to need to ideally get more money so that I can start upgrading these charcoal burners. I like to get a sustainability book instead of a productivity book early, just because like 20% productivity is like not that great. Whereas sustainability books, when you put them in, can like get your batch down to like super, super low. And it reduces the amount of time that people have to, like your workers have to walk all the way over, get some wood, bring it all the way back to the charcoal burner, all while like not actually working. And so it, I think, helps charcoal burners in like every building really that has an input work longer. And then I guess this isn't super relevant for this game specifically, but if you're playing a normal game, you're eventually going to have a bunch of bakeries and go that route if you're trying to play efficiently, and having a bunch of sustainability booklets laying around that you can throw into your bakeries, because bakeries are super good with sustainability booklets, is definitely something you want to be doing. So having a ton of extra sustainability booklets for when you do that is helpful. Now I'm just kind of waiting around for my buildings to be built, and we have our first death from starvation. First of many, let's be honest here, because that's kind of the strategy. But it'll be instantly replaced by a new immigrant. So it's not that big of a deal yet. It'll get a lot worse in the winter when people stop working as much and a bunch of people get hungry. So I don't know the math on exactly how many immigration offices you need per person. So basically, an immigration office, if it's worked, can bring in a person like once every like month. So like 3 every season. But the thing is, and like if it takes a person almost a year to completely die from when they spawn in versus like then when they like starve to death, you'd think that each immigration office would be able to support essentially 10 people, right? Where it's going to be able to import about 10 people before the first person it imported dies, right? And so like each immigration office is going to result in a 10-person higher population. The problem is that it's really hard to get your population to actually sit and work for long periods of time. And so the immigration office will likely only bring in like 5 or 6 people per year. And then you need one person to work the immigration office, and then you'll net roughly like 4-ish, depending on a lot of factors, but net like 4-ish population that can do other things for each immigration office that is constantly being worked. So we are going to build like a ton of immigration offices, especially since during the winter you'll just run out of a lot of population and a lot of people will die, and you got to like survive back up. I do want another charcoal burner. Not really for this year, but like for next year. But I also kind of need more immigration centers. So, well, that didn't work. Gotta chop down more trees. And we officially have our first harvest. So all of these houses are going to upgrade. Each of these houses, like this house produces 3 base food, or base 3 base science and 7.1 base income. This one produces 5 science and 11.3 base income. So you're increasing your science output like significantly, which is why you really want to get this first harvest in, because it's going to just skyrocket your science. Like, it's 100% something you want to do. And now we're starting to get a large amount of people starving to death because, well, we're at the beginning of autumn. So people are starting to get to the point where they're running out of food and starving. So we really need to get a lot of immigration offices up to replace them. So I grabbed this cannibalism card, not to actually slot it in, but just to look at it, so I can explain why I don't think cannibalism is very good and why I'm not using it. Basically, the way cannibalism works is that you essentially, when someone dies, they drop 20 food, and then some other person can come around and like eat it, and then you have food. Problem is a couple of things. One, 20 food is really not that much, especially on Deity when your people burn through calories just so quickly. And 2, as the city gets bigger, it is really terrible about assigning a citizen, the correct citizen to go eat the food. So if I have a big city and I have a citizen over here in the west die, it's gonna pick a random citizen potentially over on the other side of the city, and it's gonna be like, hey, go eat that food, and the citizen's gonna walk all the way over to the food and eat it. But on Deity, the amount of calories it will take for this person, like they'll burn to get all the way over here, eat the food, and get all the way back, you don't actually net gain any food because your people like eat so much food, and the amount of food that a person drops when they die is so small. And what ends up happening is the person just doesn't work for a period of time as they walk all the way across your city, eat, walk all the way back, and it doesn't help them last or like survive a lot longer. So cannibalism is really not a good thing to be using at higher difficulties. At lower difficulties, when your people burn through food less quickly, it can be kind of useful. But even then, it's not a very efficient card to be using too often. It's kind of like an emergency button, which I guess is probably what it was designed to be, but it's not something that I consider using too often. Gotta speed boost these charcoal burners because we're gonna be needing coal very quickly. I'm going to need more housing. Because, well, we're growing. Though I guess we'll see how long that growth actually happens. I'd like to get a few more immigration offices up. I don't think that the upgrade first impression is that great. Like, it increases by 20% for kind of a lot of investment. I don't know. I don't ever hit the button. I don't think it's that useful. Immigrant Stream is a lot cheaper, and so if your people are happy, it can be super useful, but, well, I'm not feeding my people, so they're not going to be happy with me. And we have a caravan. So I'm trying to figure out how much cannabis I need to sell I think I can sell like, get away with probably 50 because I still have some cannabis coming in, but I still also want to be able to have cannabis for my house upgrade. So I'm going to go with that, I think. And then not sell anything else. I could get away with selling some stone, but let's not risk it right now. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to upgrade this charcoal burner, and then this charcoal burner, because it's my most efficient charcoal burner, can be my speed boost charcoal burner. So I can pass through this, grab an immigration office and another charcoal burner. So we'll have to see just how badly our population survives the winter, because I've had in some of my test games, I've had some pretty disastrous winters where like I lose a third of my population. Typically not year 0 though. It's typically later when you get up to like 80 population and things just get less efficient because people are farther away from each other. My next kind of goal with this game is to expand over to this place and get tulip production up as well. Just so then I can upgrade all my houses to level 3, which is obviously really, really great. And then start researching, eventually get to granaries and libraries, because these are the two best buildings, in my opinion, for this situation and just for in general in Kingdoms Reborn. I think these are the two places you really want to be going with your technology. So my next research, I think, will be furniture. Well, I mean, furniture, beer building. I'm not going to build either of these buildings, at least early, because I really can't. I can't really afford it. So it doesn't really matter which. I'm just trying to get to Middle Ages out here. And I do not need a trading post or a port, because I already have one. All right, I'm just burning through these trees here, just to kind of feed everything. Eventually I will want to build a tavern, just to keep my people happy. If your happiness goes below 65%, then your people become less efficient workers, and if it gets below 50%, people start leaving. It's not super difficult to stay above 65%, though I guess when you're not feeding your population, it becomes a bit of more of an issue. So I will want a tavern across all my houses when it starts getting low, but right now it's over 65%, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, I'm going to need to get my population up to where I can fill 10 houses, so I can have 10 level 2 houses, so I can get this Middle Ages thing. So I have 7 right now. If you hover over here, you can see, and then 1 level 1 house, and then 1 unbuilt house. So I need to build 2 more houses to be able to get to 10. So I think it's time to build a house there. Be mindful of the front door of your house. So whichever way the path is going is the way that the front door is going to point. So if you can point your front door to somewhere where, like, you know, your people, like, point it in a direction that will be more efficient, is something to kind of pay attention to. So I think this house is annoyed because it's going to be right next to a charcoal burner, but I think it's more efficient than trying to put them back here at least. Then I need to cut down some trees around the house. And we're gonna see how winter's gonna go. So I expect this coal number to just start kind of tanking, honestly. But I think 2 charcoal burners will be good enough. At least good enough to like make sure nobody dies of the cold. Which, I mean, people can be replaced, obviously. That's kind of this whole strategy, but you prefer people don't die if you can help it. Oops, I need a path. Paths are free, and they increase your movement speed by 20%. So I use paths like liberally, like just throw down paths like all the time. I think it's just a tiny bit of efficiency you can gain when you're building your city, but you know, everything kind of adds up. So it's always frustrating when you're at 99%, and the builder just goes home to, I don't know, do other things. But, you know, that's the way this game works, right? I need more immigration offices, I think. Just to keep my population going up, 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 up. We're at 26 population. 18 of them are adults, which is great. It's always annoying when you have like a million kids and they can't do any work, and then you're just kind of sad. You have to feed them. Well, I guess you don't have to feed them, honestly. But they take up resources and they don't give you anything. I don't want to throw down any more buildings because I'm still kind of working on some. I want to get these houses up and then these houses upgraded, if at all possible. But if you notice, like, immigration office not being worked, immigration office not being worked, not being worked, this one not being worked, this one not being worked. And this is the tough part about Deity, because your people are just walking around doing other things, and nothing's getting worked, especially during the winter. And then once you run out of medicine and tools, things get a lot more difficult, because you have to start building those and like supplying those along with supplying, you know, everything else. And so it becomes a lot tougher to run your city as it grows. And of course, as it grows, your people have to walk further to get places, and that becomes tougher, which is why markets are so good, just as a quick aside, because they help deal with that. And we've somehow survived our first year. We're officially to year 1. And it looks like, you know, gaining population, right? Started with 18, now at 25. No food needed. Just replacing people with immigration offices and then just letting them die, I guess, is the strategy. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm definitely going to record another episode of this, so let me know if you like it. If you want to see another episode, obviously subscribe. I also produce like guides and stuff. I'm definitely here if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions on what I should produce next, and I hope your city is a good one.